I know, I'm days late, which is why I am not going to take too long with this discussion because we are almost approaching another episode. Well, we're not almost there yet, but it feels like I'm like super late with this. But anyway, so I want to start off just going from character to character instead of starting at the top of the episode, going towards the end. So I want to first start with Nova. For this episode, I definitely want to give this episode the theme of the fallout, meaning that this is what happened after the original conflict, which is the release of Nova's book. So this episode pretty much shows us how everyone is dealing with Nova releasing this book and the information that is being exposed in it, as well as just the things that were going on in their everyday lives anyway. Now for Nova in this episode, she seems to take a lot of I want to say a lot of solace in Micah, and Micah's confident in her and keeping her company and showing that he supports her even though his mother doesn't. It's really nice to see that she's real close to her nephew, seeing that she doesn't have any children of her own and that he has that unconditional love for his aunt. I believe that comes a lot from the fact that during the times where he may have felt like his own mother did not understand him, he was able to go over to Nova's house and get that sympathy that empathy even that he was looking for. In front of him, I can also see that she allows herself to be vulnerable. So at the beginning of the episode, we see that she breaks down because even though she's trying to celebrate how well her book is doing, she's also still struggling with the fact that she basically betrayed her family. You know, she did not consult with them of the things that she was putting in her book about them, and she did not get their permission, their consent, their blessing, or anything. So she's basically struggling with those two emotions: excitement for how well the book is doing, as well as heartbreak from the fact that the family, you know, is basically like deuces. And throughout this episode, we see Nova relentlessly trying to get in contact with her family before she goes off on this book tour, but no one is answering her answering her calls. There's even a point where she shows up at Violet's diner, and Violet sends her employee to let Nova know, listen, you are not getting in. It was so extreme that the employee locked the door of the diner to make sure that Nova was not getting in, and all Nova could do was just stand there and look through the door. I was like, that's crazy. So there's a part too where Nova ends up at this book reading, book signing thing, and she decides to talk about a story that she added to the book at last minute because she was so nervous about whether or not she should add it. Well, honestly, Nova, you should have been worried about just writing the book in the first place. Like, you should have consulted the family first. But anyway, she picks and chooses, I guess. But this particular story was about her father and what she believed that he did in regards to these three white men that basically was harassing them and seemed like they threatened to molest her as well, or possibly rape her. And one night she was walking through her father's land, and she looked up and she saw her father in the near distant, basically looking like he's putting what seems to be or appears to be a body into like a grave that he dug into a hole in the earth that he has possibly dug. And she doesn't exactly come out and say those words, but given the story that she reads, it's kind of like, yeah, that's where she's going with this. And you know, Micah ends up going back to Charlie and giving this information, to which Charlie and Ralph Angel shared the information with one another, or Charlie shared the information with Ralph Angel. Then they both approached Violet about it, and Violet's like, listen, there are some things that are meant to stay in the dark. And she even said, like, I don't know whether or not that's what he did, but if he did, so what? You know, let it go. And that's true. Like, if he did, that man is dead. Their father is dead. Like, why, Nova? Why? So anyway, Nova is pretty much going through it in this episode, because even though she's getting all this success, her book is definitely picking up traction. She's on her way to this tour thanks to the New York Times review. She's experiencing this massive loneliness, this massive, heartache, because of the fact that she's experiencing this success, but it seems like the only individual she has to share it with is Micah, and I'm sure that's not exactly the only person she wants to share it with. And it got to the point where her ex girlfriend shows up, and honestly, it really was never her girlfriend, because this was someone that she pretty much was using for physical reasons. And at this point, this ex-girlfriend has more self-esteem about herself, And she's like, well, let me know if you need me. And Nova ends up calling her and telling her to come over, and the young lady is like, what are you talking about? It's late in the evening, and you're just, basically putting it together that Nova is simply just trying to use her. And she told her, like, I'm here to talk to you if you want, but I'm not going back to doing what we used to do. And Nova just like, you know what, forget it, because Nova can't have her way. If Nova can't have her way, then it is what it is. So yeah, that didn't go far, but eventually towards the end of the episode, Nova just ends up leaving, I assume, to go on her book tour. So it makes you wonder if we will see her in the up and coming episodes, because she is going on this book tour, and she honestly needs to go. She needs to take a break for a minute, sit down somewhere, enjoy her success, because her family clearly does not want anything to do with her. So we have Ralph Angel as well, who has started this amazing reentry program that's tied up with his land to have workers that, were released from incarceration, or individuals that were released from incarceration to come and work on the farm. And he makes this whole big speech, and I just thought that was really, truly amazing. There was even a scene where one of the employees that worked with him, or that actually has been working with him, that's been a part, I would say that was in the testing stages of the reentry program. He approaches Ralph Angel and talks to him about the book, about Nova's book. And I'm like, how many people have read Nova's book? So he basically starts talking to Ralph Angel about this book, and Ralph Angel immediately tenses up and looks like he's about to go into defense mode, until he realizes the young man is actually giving him props for raising Blue as his own. So in that scene, we can see that Nova's book is pretty popular in this town, and that many are getting a hold of it. But at the same time, we are also seeing what Nova has been hoping would happen with the book, that individuals would read their stories of her families, would read the stories rather of her family, and be inspired by it. And yes, while we see that is happening, we also understand too that it could go either way. For example, Darla, Ralph Angel and Blue's mother, basically is concerned about if Nova wrote about her past, because we all know Darla struggled with addiction. She wasn't a mother to her son for quite a while. She did things including, sounds like, maybe possibly prostituting herself in order to feed her habit. And she was concerned that Nova had put that in the book, because Nova was fully aware of these things. The whole family was, because they were the ones taking care of Blue while Darla struggled with this addiction. Well, sure enough, we see Darla reading the book. She breaks down crying because she's reading it, and it clearly states, the things that she has done. She approached Ralph Angel about it, broke down in his arms. Then she approached Nova about it prior to Nova leaving town. She went to Nova's house, approached her about it as well. Nova, as usual, being Nova, tried to sit up here and basically finesse Darla into being convinced that it's for her good, and that it's to help other people by sharing information that Nova had no right to share. And Darla is not buying it, just like the rest of the family members, and she pretty much goes off on Nova. And you can clearly tell that's one more relationship Nova can forget about. And on top of it, just like Ralph Angel said when he approached Nova at her house, Darla too said, you can stay away from my son. You stay away from my son. So that's both parents now confirming that they do not want Nova around her nephew Blue. Okay, so also in this episode, we have Charlie, who has opened up the makeshift clinic, which is supposed to be a migrant worker clinic. Her boyfriend, I guess you could say, Dr. Ramiro Rodriguez, has opened up this makeshift clinic for migrant workers, and it's supposed to be a ICE safe zone, basically a deportation safe zone. But when Charlie first enters the clinic, she expects a bigger turnout, which she does not see. And Dr. Rodriguez is like, listen, they're worried, these migrant workers who are undocumented, they're worried about being deported. So even though we tell them it's not, it's a safe zone, it's not, they're trying to say they're behind. They're not, buying it, basically. And that kind of bothers her. It reminds you, Dr. Rodriguez is still not aware of those migrant workers that died while working on her farm. So, we got that issue. And I believe the reason why Charlie is working so hard to do good and do well by these migrant workers is to make up for what happened on her farm with those other migrant workers who passed. So anyway, at this point, Charlie finally introduces Micah to Romero, but she does not introduce Romero rather, as her man. Is just, you know, she introduced him as her friend, the doctor who works at the clinic or whatever the case may be. She also informs Micah that whoever it was trying to terrorize him through mail was actually doing it to other people too, and that the investigator she hired has found him and apprehended him, and so he's currently, I suppose, in police custody. Also, during this episode, Charlie's private investigator, who is basically investigating the Landrys, informs her that the Landrys are now going after a specific councilwoman's seat in order to gain more voting power, as well as they are attempting to build some sort of highway that it will literally destroy many black farmers' land, including Ralph Angels. So it's crazy because you know, they just stopped the prison that, you know, was being worked on, that these individuals was trying to bring to the area. Now we got this highway project, and on top of it is by the Landrys, and they're attempting to take over this councilwoman's spot. So, and I believe it's Jacob Bourgeois who is running for this councilwoman spot. So Charlie, you know, she's always trying to save the day, and she does a great job. I'll admit that she does her thing. Charlie does her thing. She approaches this councilwoman to talk to her about the situation. The councilwoman is telling her, like, look, I've already decided to step down. Matter of fact, I'm already stepping down. And which means Jacob is going to take her spot, and Charlie's doing her best to convince her otherwise. But the lady is basically telling her, you need to know when you've lost, when you can't do anymore. And Charlie is just like, seriously? And she also said, like, you know, this highway is going to be built. This is a different situation because the prison was a state project, but the highway is a federal project, meaning there is more money poured into this to be made, or more money to be made off of this. And on top of it, there are more stakeholders involved in this who are going to make sure that this project goes through no matter what they have to do. So Charlie doesn't care about that. She's like, whatever, you know, I'm still going to try to fight this. She ends up approaching Francis at this place. I don't know what it is. Looks like some sort of country club or whatever. And so Francis is Jacob Bourgeois' mother, I guess. I want to say grandmother because she looks older, but I suppose this is his mother. She ends up confronting the woman, and y'all don't quote me on that. Y'all got to Google that. I don't know if that's his mother or step grandmother. I don't know, but anyway, she ends up approaching the lady, and that lady's something else. That Francis is something else. But anyway, Francis basically says, listen, it's not just your land, it's our land too that this highway will you know, go through, but it's all about the money. And then she basically told Charlie, like, look, you're tripping, but you're a shareholder, you're gonna profit too. And Charlie doesn't care about the money. I don't know how many times Charlie has to make it clear that she is not going to betray her people for dollar signs, but the lady keeps trying to get her to cross over to that side of things anyway. And so she told you guys, this lady Frances told Charlie, 40 years ago, you would have been lucky to clean the toilets here. And I noticed that, you know, and that's why I said, like, I think this was some sort of country club. And I noticed that the waiter that came and brought the drinks was a young black male. And it looks like in the background doing the landscaping looks like, you know, some sort of, I don't know, he's Hispanic, Mexican, I don't know what he was. So you can clearly see this is brown and black folks that's working on the land, but it's the white folks who are enjoying the benefits of the country club, who are the actual members. And for her to open up her mouth and say some shit like 40 years ago you would have been lucky to clean the toilets here, definitely lets you know that wicked lady's mentality, or wicked person, she's not no lady, wicked person mentality. And Charlie held her own. Charlie held her own, came back with her clap back saying, you know what, I don't care, and I'm going to put a stop to this. And, you know, I think Frances is starting to realize that she cannot easily intimidate Charlie. Charlie being a woman herself that has defeated many giants, okay? On top of it, she has money, so it's very hard to wave a dollar sign in front of her and attempt to make that the means to drive to for her passion, for her drive, for her purpose, because she already has it and she already had it. So for her, you know, she's about her people. The money doesn't impress her because she knows what it's like to have money. For her, she chooses her morality. So you got to give it up for Charlie for that. But yeah, this was a pretty tough episode for her because of the fact that, you know, now it's like, okay, we just finished fighting this battle for the prison situation. Now we got to fight. Now it's another battle to be fought. So this is going to more than likely unfold until we get to the end of this season. And it's going to be very, very exciting, but I'm sure very emotional to watch. But as usual, there's always more going on for Charlie. So Charlie's ex-husband decides to bring over Micah's, I guess you could say, half-sister. Is that what it's called? Because of the fact that they have different mothers. He decides to bring over Micah's half-sister. And Davis, that's his name. Davis decides to bring over Micah's half-sister, Tia. And it's like an awkward moment because Micah knew that Davis was coming, but he did not know he was bringing, you know, the half-sister that they did not know about until now, until recently rather. And Charlie, Micah did not know that Charlie was even home. So at once they all come out like in the living room area, at the front door, and everyone's just kind of standing there. You have Davis, Tia, Micah, and Charlie all kind of exchanging, you know, kind of awkward looks. And it's very weird, and it's just kind of like Davis is attempting to pull Charlie back into his life by inviting her to some dinner that he was going to take, or lunch or whatever it is that he was going to take Micah and Tia to. And Charlie, being as intelligent as she is like, listen, don't even try it. You had this child, you're going to raise her. Don't try to pull me back into the fold to be there and be this pretend family that you want everyone to see out in the open, and then you expect me to sit up here and be there to take care of her too. I'm not doing it. You had her, you deal with it. And I had to give it up to her for that, because I'm not sure what Davis honestly was trying to accomplish by inviting her. It could have been innocent. It could have been completely innocent, but at the same time, he should really know better, and he should try to place himself in Charlie's shoes to understand the pain that she must feel to know that the man that she was married to and who she believed they shared their only child together actually went outside of their marriage, cheated multiple times, but also had a child with someone else, something that she did not do. You know, her only child is with him. He can't say the same, and this is a man that she loved and was married to. So there's definitely trust issues. There's definitely loyalty that was broken. So much stuff that was broken, and I don't understand why he can't put himself in her shoes to be a little bit more sympathetic to her heartbreak that he caused. Yeah, Davis definitely is a little delusional, and like I said, he may have meant well by inviting Charlie to dinner, but that wasn't necessary. Last but not least, we have Violet. Violet was definitely going through it in this episode. She was the character we saw who really experienced the most fallout than any other character after the release of Nova's book. She emotionally was very nervous during this episode, very jumpy, very paranoid. You could see she snapped on her employee while at work, which was awkward because Hollywood was standing there too. And it's like Hollywood knows what she's going through, but I'm not sure the strangers and the outside individuals like the employees at the diner understand what she's going through. So it just was very awkward, and Vi's trying to keep it together, but you can clearly see what that encounter, the experience of Jimmy Dale coming back in town, then the whole incident that got physical, you can definitely tell it has shook the hell out of Violet. There was even a point where at the diner she heard a voice and she thought it was Jimmy Dale, but it wasn't. So she tries to keep it together. She tries to do what she can at the diner, but eventually it's like, you know, it's just too much for her. And towards the end of the episode, you know, we see Hollywood throughout the episode is trying to embrace Violet. He's trying to touch her and she's basically got the chills. She seems almost disgusted, and it's not necessarily with him. I think it's more so because of the memories of Jimmy Dale and the fact that she just had this incident that has drudged up the past, basically, and the things that Jimmy Dale put her through. You know, there is no telling. We still haven't confirmed whether or not there was a baby or not, and there's no telling what type of things Jimmy Dale did to her. So it's like in this episode, Hollywood wants to give Violet that physical expression of love, but she's not ready. You know, she's dealing with that trauma right now. And towards the end, Hollywood is like, you know, come to bed. You know, he wants to be, you know, intimate with her and express his love for her. And she goes and takes a bath and starts running the water. Well, she doesn't get in the bath, but she runs the water. And she just breaks down. I mean, she is screaming in a towel, but the towel can't even mask her pain. It is so loud that Hollywood hears it. And you can see Hollywood sit up with a broken heart because he knows she's in pain. He may not understand it. He may not necessarily be able to empathize, but he knows, and he knows why. And now it's like it's a confirmation as to why she's been acting funny lately, why she hasn't been allowing him to physically touch her, and why she's been acting so jumpy and so moody. He understands, and it's a moment where you can see he wants to get up and go in there and help her, but he even recognizes this is just a moment she has to have for herself. And that's what I believe, that he recognized that was a moment she needed for herself. She needed the opportunity to break down, to let it all out. And you got to give it up for Hollywood. You know, what a man that he is able to understand as her husband, you know, the best way he's handling the situation basically the best way he can as to what to do in these type of situations, which is very interesting. I honestly wouldn't know what to do in those kind of situations. So the fact that, you know, he has decided in his mind, okay, she needs her space. She needs this moment to break down without feeling like he has to go in there and hold her, because I don't think she wants to be held. I don't think she even wants to be touched. I think she just needs that time and that moment to recover, and he gets that. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, in the end, we see that Nova leaves and basically she's going on her book tour. So I'm very excited to see what the next episode will bring. Okay.